So, we're going to tackle that dreaded check engine light today. Specifically, we're diving deep into code P0480. Now, I know it can seem a little intimidating, but in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what it means, why you really can't ignore it, and most importantly, how you can start figuring it out yourself, step by step.
Yep, there it is, that little glowing symbol on your dashboard. It's basically your car's way of trying to tell you something's not quite right. And if your code reader is flashing P0480 at you, well, you are in the perfect place to figure out what to do next.
And here it is, the official name of our problem: cooling fan 1 control circuit malfunction. Yeah, I know, it sounds like a real mouthful, doesn't it? But don't you worry, we are about to make this whole thing crystal clear.
So, what is this code really trying to tell us? Let's peel back the layers and see what's actually happening under the hood when your car decides to throw a P0480 code.
You know, at its heart, this code is all about a communication breakdown. Just think of your car's computer, the powertrain control module, or PCM, as the brain of the whole operation. The brain is sending out a very clear message, something like, hey, the engine's getting hot, turn on the fan now. But for some reason, that message either isn't getting through or the brain isn't hearing back that the fan got the message and is doing its job.
And this is exactly why you absolutely cannot just ignore this code and hope it goes away. If that fan doesn't turn on when it's supposed to, your engine's temperature can just skyrocket, and that can lead to overheating, which can cause some truly catastrophic and, believe me, incredibly expensive engine damage. So this isn't just some little light on the dash, it's a serious warning.
Okay, so where do we even start our investigation? Well, you always want to start with the simplest and, honestly, the most common suspects first. Before you start thinking the worst, let's go check the fuses and relays.
It's super important to follow a logical path here. First up, find your fuse box. Your owner's manual is going to be your best friend for this. Then, just pull the fuse for the cooling fan and take a close look at that tiny metal strip inside. If you see a break, that's your problem. If the fuse looks good, the next step is the relay. A relay is basically just a heavy-duty switch that's built to handle all the power that fan motor needs.
And here's a fantastic pro tip for you. A lot of times, another system in your car, maybe like the horn, uses the exact same kind of relay, so you can just swap them. If you put the fan relay in the horn spot and suddenly your horn doesn't work, bingo, you just found your problem. It's a really quick and easy test you can do right in your driveway, no special tools required.
Right, so if the fuses and the relays check out okay, our investigation has to move down the line to the electrical path itself. It's time to put on our detective hats and inspect the wiring harness that connects everything. So grab a flashlight and really start looking. You're searching for anything that just looks out of place. You see any wires that are obviously broken or maybe even chewed on by a mouse. Check the connectors. Are the little pins inside nice and clean and tight? Keep an eye out for that greenish-white powdery stuff. That's corrosion, especially around the battery and ground connections. Oh, and any sign of melted plastic is a huge red flag that you've had a short circuit.
Think of it this way. All those wires and connectors, they're just the phone line between the car's brain and the fan. And if that phone line is cut, or just has a really bad connection, that turn-on message, well, it just never arrives. In today's cars, these electrical systems are so complex, so just one bad wire can cause a whole lot of trouble.
Okay, so what if the phone line is perfect, but the person making the call is giving out bad information? That brings us to our next major suspect, the coolant temperature sensor.
Here's how this whole thing is supposed to work. A good sensor accurately tells the computer, hey, the engine is at 210 degrees, it's time for the fan. But a bad sensor? It might be stuck telling the computer the engine is ice cold, even when it's actually overheating. And if the computer thinks the engine is cold, it's never going to send that command to turn on the fan.
So let's recap. We've checked the messengers. That's the fuses and relays. We've checked the communication lines, the wiring. We've even checked the source of the information, the sensor. So now it's finally time to check the one who's supposed to be getting the message, the fan motor itself.
First, the simple stuff. Just do a quick visual check. See if a rock or some other road debris got kicked up in there and is jamming the fan blades. It happens. If it looks all clear, you can do a direct test. By carefully applying 12 volts, maybe with some jumper wires from the battery, directly to the fan's electrical terminals, you can completely bypass the rest of the system. If it spins up, you know the motor's good. If it doesn't, well, you found your culprit.
All right, let's bring this all home. We've followed the diagnostic chain. So now let's go over the most common fixes and what your next steps could look like. Let's solve this case.
Now, while we've covered the big four, I gotta mention there are a few other, less common possibilities. Some cars have a totally separate fan control module that can go bad. Sometimes a faulty AC pressure switch can mess with the fan operation. And very, very rarely, the car's main computer, the PCM itself, could be the issue, but you should always rule everything else out first.
So here's a quick summary of our whole investigation. If it turns out to be the relay, the fix is just a simple replacement. If you have damaged wiring, that's going to need a careful repair. A bad sensor just needs to be swapped out for a new one. And if the fan motor itself has failed, you're probably looking at replacing the entire fan assembly. Those are our main suspects and their most likely solutions.
The real key takeaway here is this. By understanding what could be causing the problem, from a simple $5 relay to a wiring issue, you're not in the dark anymore. You now have the knowledge to check out the common culprits yourself, or, at the very least, have a much smarter conversation with your mechanic. The power is back in your hands. So, what's your next move going to be?